If willpower worked, January would have fixed obesity. But it never does. Bad habits don't survive because you are lazy or unmotivated. They survive because the wrong action is still too easy, especially when you are tired. And when your environment and the people around you keep pulling you back, change never sticks. That's why so many people start strong, make changes, and still end up right where they began. I am Dr. Almerie, a weight loss surgeon, and in this video I will show you 2 powerful moves that weaken bad habits at the source. Not by fighting urges and not by trying harder, but by changing the system around you. The first one is how to add friction to the bad habits so they become inconvenient instead of automatic. And second, how the people you spend time with can quietly lock habits in or pull you back into the old patterns without you even noticing. Miss this step, and January after January, you keep repeating yourself. Get it right, and healthy choices stop feeling forced and they start feeling normal. Let's dive in. Very simply, habits run on a loop. Something triggers you, you act, and your brain gets a reward. In our last video, which you could still see in the playlist linked below, we focused on stopping that loop early by removing the visible cues from our phones and from our environment. Things that remind us of food or put unhealthy food right in front of us, and that helps a lot. But even with our best efforts, strong habits will still find their way to start through missed cues, small signals, things that we cannot fully control. Once a cue slips through, if the action is easy, the habit almost always wins, especially when you are tired. So the next step in taking control is to make that action harder. Then even if the habit starts, it's much less likely to finish. Let's be honest, if snacks are already in the house and you are tired, they will get eaten, not because you are weak, but because they are easy. We want that to become a little bit more difficult action. So here is the rule. Stop overstocking snacks. When you do your weekly shopping, don't buy snacks just in case. Buy only what you are actually planning to eat for that week. No backups, no extra storage. Because extra snacks don't just sit there, they get eaten. This doesn't mean that you can never have snacks. It just means this: if you have already eaten your share and you still want to have more, you have to work for it. You have to get dressed, get yourself into the car, drive to the local shop, and most evenings you don't feel like doing this. You are tired. So just putting that kind of friction into the habit, that extra step that you have to do to get your extra snacks, will mean that most of the night you're not gonna do it. Now, we do not leave a gap because your brain still wants some comfort. So we prepare alternative foods that are easy, comforting, and available ready. Something like herbal tea, make it available, easy to reach, so you can make it anytime you want. Have something like protein-based snacks like Greek yogurt, boiled eggs, healthy nuts, all pre-portioned, not straight from the bag, but in small pots that you planned before. Fruits also can be washed and have ready in the fridge or on the counter. It's the same cravings, but it's a different path. The brain wants comfort, so give it comfort, just not the old way. And over time, as you start setting your environment the right way, what you will find is that this habit is starting to lose its strength. Not because you are fighting harder, but because you are not fighting at all. Evening feels calmer, decisions feels lighter, and for the first time, you can trust yourself around food again. That is how real habit change works. We have already seen a great example of how changing an environment does change the habits. Look at smoking. Years ago, cigarettes ads were everywhere. On TV, on billboards, in films, in shops, smoking felt normal. Then the cues were removed. Adverts were banned. Cigarettes are no longer visible in the supermarkets. But then something even more powerful happened. Smoking was banned in restaurants, in pubs, in all public places. So suddenly smokers could not just light up. Even if they wanted a cigarette and they have it in their pockets, they have to stand up, walk outside, go somewhere specific, might be cold, might be rainy, there's a lot of effort. So the cues were reduced and the action became harder, and that combination was the real turning point. Over time, smoking rates fell dramatically from something that was once very common to a very small minority today. Not because people became suddenly stronger, but because the environment stopped supporting smoking and making it easy. Now here is the key point for today. Society has done this for smoking, but unfortunately it has not yet done it for eating. We still live in a world that constantly prompts us to eat. Food is everywhere, ads everywhere, snacks everywhere. And when food is always visible and always easy, habits will not fade away, they will survive. So until that wider environment changes, the responsibility quietly falls on you, not to be stronger, but to be smarter. Work on your small environment. When you reduce the visibility of unhealthy food and combine that with increasing the effort needed to have it, the habit will weaken. That is pure psychology, one-on-one. Here is the part most people ignore. You do not just inherit habits from your brain, you inherit them from the environment you live in. You are constantly influenced by the people you spend time with, the places you go to, and the behaviors that feel normal around you. Your brain is always asking one question: what do people like me do here? If everyone around you snacks constantly, your brain receives cues all the time. If your social life revolves around food, your old habits do not just survive, they get stronger, quietly, repeatedly, without anyone meaning wrong. That is why relapse happens so easily. Not because you failed, not because you lack discipline, but because you stepped back into an environment that kept reactivating the habit loop. Now here is the part that really matters. When you change a habit, you don't just erase it from your brain, you weaken it, and the pathway is still there. Think about smoking. Someone who has never smoked in the past, they can sit in a room full of smokers and still feel nothing. Even if someone offers them a cigarette, there's no pull, there's no urge, there's no internal fight. But for an ex-smoker, it's totally different. Even years down the line, those pathways still exist. The smell, the social setting, the familiar cues, that's all what it takes for that bad habit to wake up again. Eating habits work the same way. If you've spent years snacking, overeating, or using food for comfort, these pathways will not just disappear just because you changed. They will stay quieter. And that means you need to protect yourself. You can't out-discipline an environment that keeps pulling you back. So if you want new habits to stick and bad old habits to disappear, this part matters. Spend more time with people who live the habits you want. Go to places where healthier choices feel normal, and actively reduce time in environments and around people who make the old habits easy to slip back to. This is not about cutting people off. It's not about judging them. It's just about protecting your progress, the progress that you worked so hard to achieve. Because when your environment supports you, you are no longer fighting uphill. Relapse loses its grip. The choices become easier, and for the first time, your habits are being supported, not sabotaged by the world around you. That's not weakness, that's how change lasts. Now let's bring this together. Bad habits don't survive because you are weak. They survive because the system around you keeps feeding them. Today you have seen 3 ways to change that system. First, you remove the cues so the habits struggle to start. Then you add friction so the action becomes much harder to follow through. And third, you protect yourself by choosing environments and people that don't pull you back. Miss any of these and the same cycle quietly repeats. You try harder, but eventually you get tired. But when the system changes, you do not need constant effort. Evening feels calmer, decisions feels lighter, and for the first time, change doesn't feel fragile, it feels stable. That's not willpower, that is biology working for you. I am Dr. Almerie, thanks for watching. If you haven't seen the previous video on removing cues from your environment, you will find the link below here. We are not building discipline here, we are building systems that actually last. I will see you in the next video.